Welcome to Spectrum Days, Games We Played, where each episode we talk about a game from our past, if we can remember it, then play it, and let you know what we think today. My name is Chris. What game are we going to try and remember today, Phil?
Hello, Chris. Well, we're going to look at the Horace Trilogy. The game people will probably most remember is probably Horace Goes Skiing. But what I didn't realise is there is actually 3 Horace games. But yeah, that's the series of games we're going to look at. Probably most famous for being on the Spectrum, though they did come out on the C64 as well, and some other random computer that I can't remember. But yeah, Horace Goes Skiing is the one that I remember. I'm assuming that's the one you remember?
You're absolutely right. I can't really remember any other. I can remember Horace Goes Skiing, which must be the first game I remember on the Spectrum. So the first home computer game I'd played, a Pong type game on a kind of console at home before, one of those games where you had two controllers. If I remember rightly, almost like a dial to move the bat up and down, and you could bounce a ball between you, kind of play a Pong tennis game. But after that, the first game I remember playing is Horace Goes Skiing on the Spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone doesn't know it, I'd be absolutely amazed, because it really is like, if he's mentioned the Spectrum to anyone, I would almost bet money that they would mention Horace Goes Skiing as sort of the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the Spectrum. So it certainly is for me, certainly is for you. And I think John was the same, our producer lurking there in the background. I think he said the same thing. But like we said, there is several games, all made by the same guy. There was Hungry Horace was the first one, and from what research I think it was 1982. The games, I think, stretched sort of the 3 that came out from 1982 to 1983. There was a 4th plan, but the guy that wrote them, he had some sort of illness, something to do with his lungs or something, so the 4th game was planned but never got made. So I say the first one was Hungry Horace, which is, well, basically a Pac-Man clone. I only know this from doing the research. The whole point of this podcast is that we will play the games, but after we try and remember them, we will have a go at playing them and then let you know what we think. The second, Horace Goes Skiing, is the one that we do remember, or I certainly remember playing a lot. Sort of in the 2 parts. It's the first bit, you have to get across the road. So I think you either got to get your skis, or you've got your skis, you've got to go to the ski shop. I can't quite remember. And it's basically Frogger. If anyone's ever played Frogger, if that helps anyone understand, it's that sort of getting across the road, avoiding the cars type thing. And the second part is the actual skiing, where you're basically, it's just from top to bottom, you're going down the screen, trying to go in between the flags, I think, if memory serves, and avoiding trees. And that's basically based on the skiing game on the Atari. And the third one, again, which I don't remember, was Horace and the Spiders. The name rings a vague bell, but that might be because I've been researching it for the video. I don't know. It's another game in 2 parts. The first is a bit like Pitfall, and the second is like Space Panic. But yeah, what do you actually remember of playing Horace Goes Skiing? Can you remember how it worked?
Well, this is a common theme, but I can remember it being really hard. So every game we've spoken about so far is very, very difficult. So difficult that I can. I've seen a photograph that my parents have of me sat at the Spectrum in the very first house that we lived in. The Spectrum was set up on the TV in the lounge, and I think I'm kneeling. I was sat at the keyboard. And I think I'm crying. There's a photograph of me crying my eyes out at the frustration of Horace Goes Skiing, which obviously my parents thought was incredibly funny enough to go and now remember this. I was about 8 years old. No one had a mobile phone with a camera, so someone had to have gone and looked for the camera with film in turned that on and took a photograph of me crying. So now, when you think about that, the cruelty.
So specifically, our child is crying playing
Go
this
get the
game.
camera.
We
Go
must
get the
camera
Yeah,
to
exactly.
preserve the misery of Horace Goes Skiing forever. I think, therefore, you're absolved from any. You don't need to remember the game. That's all you need to remember. That it was miserable and your parents laughed in your face while you struggled playing the game. I love
Exactly. But most of my memories of playing video games in those days is quite similar. My dad always taking the mickey when any kind of platforming game, and I'd constantly jump off the platform and die at exactly the same place, and my dad would be tutting away in the background. Well, yeah, it's amazing to think that they went and found a camera to take that photograph. But yeah, it must have been very, very difficult. Now, thinking back, and you think, okay, it was like Frogger, but Frogger probably could have only played in the arcade.
Well, it's one of those games that came out on everything, even if it was a clone, like essentially the first part of Horace Goes Skiing is.
Yeah, exactly. And now, now I think, of course, my memory is all muddled up, as we've mentioned before, and it makes me think of Crossy Roads. So, of course, Crossy Roads on the free to play game, which was a big hit a few years ago.
Yeah.
So again, that's kind of the modern version of Frogger, in a way. But yeah, Horace Goes Skiing. Once again, I don't think we paid in those days much attention to any storyline. If you look at an image of Horace Goes Skiing, what was Horace? It's essentially, I think, legs, arms, and a body with two large holes, as if they were kind of big eyes.
Yeah.
So what and who was Horace?
Well, I think that's what's interesting about it, is that it became a mascot totally unofficially, but I think it's partly because although the guy that came up with it, I keep forgetting his name, it's in there in the notes somewhere. He was an Australian coder, William Tang, that was it. He was an Australian coder. The game got published by Beam Software and Melbourne House, which are Australian companies. I think Beam Software is still going under some other name. But anyway, but over here, it got published by Sinclair Research, or certainly Horace Goes Skiing did. Now, Sinclair Research was basically Clive Sinclair's own company, i.e. the people that made the Spectrum. I think he used to spend his evenings with his double cassette player, burning out copies of Horace Goes Skiing for everyone to have with their ZX Spectrum, because it got included. It got included with the Spectrum.
Hello there, boys and girls. I'm world-renowned inventor and all-round amazing guy Sir Clive Sinclair, inventor of the ZX Spectrum 48K that you probably own at home. Well, in my spare time, well, not that I have any spare time, I like to make lots of copies of Horace Goes Skiing, so you've all got something to play when you open up your ZX Spectrum on your birthday and or Christmas. I use the double cassette player here, but I'm allowed to, so don't do this at home. Don't any of you copy games in this way. Only me here in my castle am I allowed to do this, because it's all mine, okay? Enjoy, Horace. It's a nice, easy game. I've completed it.
I believe a sort of 6-pack thing. Again, this is based on research, not my memory. I couldn't find out much detail about that, but I think it came with sort of 6 now we probably say crappy games, but games back then that were sort of smaller, and would obviously fit all on one tape.
They were all small games.
They were, well, yeah, they were. I got a vague, again, it's based on some research and vague memory. I think it might not even have required the 48 to play on it. I think it's played on the 16. the
Right.
Horace Goes Skiing. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm sure someone can let us know in the comments if they want to let us know on that. They can be bothered to do the research. But I was just going to say, I think that's why we remember it, because everyone had it. Again, it was a bit like we talked about with other stuff. It's a packet. It was the packing game before that was even really a term. I think it's just the software that you had included with the machine.
Right. Yeah, if I think back to where I lived and the first Spectrum, talking about 16 or 48K, where the first Spectrum we had was 16K. And I can remember somehow my parents knew a telecoms engineer, someone who knew enough about computers to open it up and to add to increase it up to the 48K. So,
you're so middle class.
Yeah. I expect Horace ran so much more smoothly thanks to that upgrade.
I think I was still struggling with a Pong console then. I think we should give some context to when this came out. If it was 82, 83, I did find out that, again, this is not based on my memory, but I do remember this cassette. It later came out on the charity compilation, Soft Aid, which I do remember my friend having. My friend who had a Spectrum well before me, so I probably played the game that we're talking about probably around at his house. But he had Soft Aid, which came off the back of the Do They Know It's Christmas song thing, apparently, which was on one side of the tape as well. So it did get re-released. So it sort of was popular enough to end up on another package.
Well, that was a thing back in those days. So Philip has started by saying he would be amazed if people didn't know of Horace Goes Skiing. But I always hope that there'll be some younger people learning the history of these games and wouldn't have been there. So they, I hope that some people are listening to this who've never heard of Horace Goes Skiing. So we'll give them a little bit of a new knowledge, right? So people might not know that the Spectrum, just a very, very fast recap, games were loaded via cassette tape. Magnetic medium was a cassette tape, and you would put the games into a cassette player, press play, load them in. So that meant that some people were doing these kind of strange marketing things of adding games onto a cassette tape, which also had audio, so music. And there were even radio channels broadcasting games. I can remember staying by the stereo system, waiting for a broadcast of a game and pressing record, and then recording that game and then playing it back on the Spectrum. They weren't very good games, but so some radios were broadcasting games. So that's how nowadays we have the internet. Back in those days, we had radio channels playing Spectrum games. Which have got a distinctive sound. If you have ever heard that, you'll never forget what the screech of a Spectrum game loading is like. And in the UK, we had our own kind of Elvis clone, I'm afraid to say, or a singer at the time, Shakin' Stevens. And I can remember that he had a game on one of his albums because a friend had that album, or his mother had the album, I'm not quite sure, and I can remember playing that game, Shakin' Stevens.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's come up now and again. A few other sort of indie labels have included games. Now, a lot of as vinyl has sort of made a comeback and things. There has been a few bands recently who've put snippets of Spectrum games onto their albums. So yeah, I think it's a thing people remember, is that sort of thing, getting stuff off the radio and what have you. But it didn't always work. I think if no one's got any idea about trying to load something by tape, it was pretty iffy. It rarely worked. But I think that's also, again, why I think Sinclair Research chose these titles, because they were so short. the load was far more likely to succeed. It was really later on in the Spectrum's life when you had games that were taking 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes to load. That was pretty difficult. Again, to give you an idea of that era, like I was saying, when the Soft Aid tape came out, 82, 83 in the UK, unemployment rose to over 3 million, which was a post-war record number. So none of us were in work. I don't know how any of us could afford games back then. The first computer virus, Elk Cloner, arrived on the Apple II via floppy disk. It couldn't happen to a better company. All 9 planets recognized at the time align on the same side of the sun. We invaded the Falklands. Sorry about that. The first compact discs were produced in Germany, and Sony released its first consumer CD player, which is kind of ideal, really, that somebody actually released a player for CDs if someone was manufacturing CDs. Otherwise, there didn't seem much point. Thriller, the album, was released, the Michael Jackson album, and I just happened to randomly put in that Kirsten Dunst was born because I think she's lovely. So it's rather nice to know that she was born in that era when we were busy playing Horace Goes Skiing. Kirsten Dunst was born. And I expect she'd like to play Horace Goes Skiing. I expect it's a game that she'd love.
Oh, sure. I love Horace Goes Skiing. It's my favourite computer game. I love all you guys at Spectrum days. You're all beautiful. Bye.
And what were the top films then, Chris, from 1982?
Well, it looks like 1982 was a good year for films. E.T., Tron, Conan the Barbarian, Rambo First Blood, Rocky 3, Blade Runner, and a particularly British animated film, The Snowman. Yeah, they were really good films that year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember all those, but we were far too young. Well, I suppose the only one we might have seen if we were lucky was E.T., but then everything came out like a million years later on like cassette, on VHS. I doubt I saw E.T. till I was about 15.
Yes.
I was only 7 at the time.
Yeah, you're right. I absolutely wasn't watching Rambo First Blood and Rocky 3 or Blade Runner when I was 8.
No.
Tron, maybe Tron.
Tron probably was Disney, wasn't it?
Yeah, E.T. and Tron, and of course Tron for video game players is a very iconic film. There was an E.T. Was there an E.T. Spectrum game?
Do you know? I don't know. I mean, the trouble is, as soon as you mention E.T. game, everyone just thinks of the Atari one that was buried in the desert, and now they've dug them all up. I mean, that's the only one I can think of, which is a shame because they're probably somewhere out there is a good E.T. game.
Yeah, a Tron. Of course, there's many light cycle games. I don't know if there was an official Tron game, but light cycle.
Yeah, it came out in the arcade, wasn't it? There was several. There was the Frisbee one and the light cycle. I think they were 2 separate arcade machines, 2 different.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then Rambo on the Master System.
Yeah,
with the light gun.
Yes,
that was good.
Yeah,
I've got good memories of that one. Better memories than Horace Goes Skiing. And Rocky, I guess there was a Rocky. I'm pretty sure there was a Rocky
game on the Master System.
Master System, exactly. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, so that was fairly awful. It was sort of training, hitting a bag, and then you'd be in a fight. And I think it was always with Mr. T. So it was like Rocky 3. It must have been. Yeah.
So this game was a Spectrum game. So of course, in the shop that you were working in later, this was this must have been almost 10 years before you started working in the shop.
So the year, yes. I mean, we didn't open the shop till 92. So yeah, I mean, the Spectrum, the only computer, more micros as they were sort of called back then, stuff that occasionally came in the shop really was you get 1 or 2 odd people that would come in with Amiga titles. We bought some boxed PC games, and back then, don't forget, PC was almost sort of considered pretty odd if you played games on the PC compared to how big Mega Drive, Super Nintendo and everything else was. I'm not saying that the games were odd, but it was considered fairly niche to buy PC games back then. We bought a few to sell new in the shop. There were sort of the adventure games that were sort of quite popular. Was it Day of the Tentacle and sort of few games like that I seem to remember. But no, by then we didn't see anything like that. It was considered disposable by then. It wasn't even considered, it wasn't retro yet. You know, no one was sort of going, oh, wow, I must buy some boxed Spectrum games in the early 90s. No one was even considering it. They were all up in the loft where mine were. And then I didn't see them until recently, like I think I've mentioned before.
Was Horace Goes Skiing in that?
No, it wasn't. And I think there's a good reason for that. Like I just mentioned, I think the fact that pack, Horace and whatever else was included in that pack that Sinclair Research published, really was on the 16 and the 48Ks. By the time I got my Spectrum, I had the 128. So right. that came with, I don't know, I think Curry's, the superstore, electrical sort of superstore over here, I think it came with a specific Curry's specific pack that might have had really exciting games like Mahjong and how to draw a cat and pretty terrible stuff. I'd rather have had Horace Goes Skiing, quite frankly.
Well, I don't know. That's what you say now. When we pause and play it, I'm sure your tune will change.
Yeah, again, to point out to everyone who's listening, we have resisted playing. In fact, our producer couldn't resist and has actually had a go on the game. But the whole point of the podcast is that, we try and remember the game before being tempted to play it. So you will hear us in a minute after having played it. we might absolutely hate it and destroy yet another thing of our childhoods, or we might be secretly pleased. I don't know. But also to point out, two of the games we've certainly never played, although I don't remember playing. I don't remember playing the Pac-Man clone one, which was the first one, and I don't remember the third one in the series particularly. So it's going to be interesting. And just to point out to those of you who, certainly if you're listening to it on YouTube, I don't know whether we can do this on the podcast places that we have this on. I will put a link so that you can play these games along with us. There is a site where you can sort of play it in your browser. There's quite a few Spectrum games on there. Don't tempted to play the other ones. Don't jump ahead. Just have a go at the Horace Goes Skiing. So, you can see whether you agree with us or not.
I don't have very high hopes for Horace Goes Skiing, I've got to say. In past episodes, we've played R-Type, and then we played Ghouls and Ghosts.
Oh, don't talk about Ghouls and Ghosts.
And they were both fiendishly difficult.
Oh, horrible.
They were very, very, very hard.
Oh, God.
And we kind of... My memories for R-Type have not been destroyed. I kind of still got a soft spot for R-Type. Ghouls and Ghosts.
I agree.
Too frustrating.
Yeah, we did both find at the end of that one that I don't need to play Ghouls and Ghosts ever again. I don't hate it by any means, and I have good memories of it, but I don't need to play it again. So I am slightly worried about this podcast now that we are just slowly going to ruin all these games.
All these memories.
We think, wow, can't wait to talk about Horace Goes Skiing. That game was brilliant, which it was. We haven't really said it yet. Well, it was. It was great. We all played it. We all instantly remembered it the moment it came up in the conversation. Like, oh, yeah, Horace Goes Skiing. Brilliant.
Yeah, except for my main memory is me crying playing it. So that's...
I've forgotten that. Yeah. Okay, everybody. We're going to press pause. You can too if you'd like to join in. As I say, certainly if you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the description box below. You can play along and then just press unpause, and we will be back in a few seconds. Although for us, it'll be a few days, but for you, it'll be a few seconds. And And we're back. Thank you to those of you who did actually press pause and were brave enough to play the Horace Trilogy along with us. For those of you who didn't, you're probably very sensible, and I don't think you've missed out on anything, quite honestly. But don't worry, because we're going to tell you all about our feelings about those games now. And they're awful, and I can't stand them. That's pretty much how I feel about them. Our raison d'etre here is to destroy our childhood dreams. And yeah, this definitely has. How did you feel about them, Chris?
Pretty much the same. Yeah, another childhood memory destroyed. As we said in part one, I can't even remember the other two games. Horace Goes Skiing is the one. It's the classic of the trilogy. Everyone refers to this as the trilogy, I'm sure. Horace Goes Skiing has got some positive points. Should we save those for a bit later? But the other two, I mean, a fiendishly difficult Pac-Man clone and almost a platformer. I mean, Horace and the Spiders is a kind of an early platform game. Yeah, it's I'd say it's an early version of Tomb Raider.
It's uncanny. Yeah, it's uncanny.
Or Uncharted. Or Uncharted. You know, the same mechanics. You run, you jump, you swing from ropes. You get stuck on those ropes. You have to bash the keyboard until you find the key to let you drop off the rope, and then you just close the browser and never play again.
Yeah, it's just like that. For those of you who didn't bother playing along, yeah, Hungry Horace, I think is the first one. Yeah, as Chris said, it's sort of Pac-Man, but a really weird version of Pac-Man. It's you go from screen to screen again. It's with Pac-Man, you clear the screen of the dots and it just refreshes and sort of starts again. But this has got sort of several levels and they're joined. So it's like an early Zelda dungeon. So you sort of go from one room to the next. It's got sort of warp doorways, which I think the original Pac-Man had, didn't it? Left and right. You could sort of peer from one side to the other. So it's got sort of warps in it as well. The way the monsters chase you is pretty... wow, they know exactly what. There's no sort of pattern. In Pac-Man, you can sort of confuse the ghosts, but in this, I don't know. It's like the programmer's actually playing the game with you, and he's just going to get you. You just don't stand a chance. He knows exactly where you're going. It's like preempts where you're going to move to.
There's no warm up. It goes straight into extreme difficulty. I mean, at least in Ghouls and Ghosts, there was a practice version, right? Which, you know, for expert players like us, made the game easy, right?
Bearable.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Bearable.
But it just goes into being hard immediately. I can't imagine. You know, the whole rigmarole of getting your Spectrum set up, getting that game into the tape player, getting your little screwdriver out to play around with it so it would actually load and work, and then playing that game, a fiendishly difficult Pac-Man where the enemies know exactly where you're going and give you no respite, nothing. It's not like the first level just has one slow enemy. No. The enemy's full speed and that's it. Game over immediately. It's really difficult. Really difficult. And if I'd ever played that game as a child, well, that would be a childhood memory absolutely destroyed. But I don't think I ever played that one.
No, I agree. I don't remember it. It's weird that was the first one. Yeah, I don't remember it. But I think, like we said in the first part of the podcast, that the fact that Horace Goes Skiing was bundled in with the machine, I think it's the only... I actually fairly confident now, having played the Masterful trilogy, that we would have never have heard of these games. if we hadn't have had that bundle. They are genuinely that bad. I too hold Horace Goes Skiing in great esteem, and like we said earlier on, it is the game everyone says to you if you mention the Spectrum.
Yeah,
people do remember it, but I am now very confident in that. I really don't think anyone would be talking about it if it hadn't have been bundled with the machine. It's not a good game.
No.
It really isn't a good game.
No, we should have asked someone else from that time. I don't know, our dads or something. Had they heard of this game? Maybe it's some sort of conspiracy. Someone's just coded these afterwards, inserted them into Wikipedia, and said that they were part of a trilogy because I can't remember them. Or it's because I'm almost 50 and I can't remember what I had for breakfast today. I don't know.
Why is it that thing is popular on the internet at the moment, isn't it? There's loads of YouTube videos. It's all over the place. With these sort of memories that you think you remember what the guy on the front of the Monopoly box looked like, but actually he wasn't wearing a monocle. He was wearing Nike shoes or something, and everyone's remembering things completely differently. What is that thing called? Someone let us know. I can't even remember the thing about remembering things.
Inception. Inception.
Like these false memories. Everyone's got these weird false memories. Yeah, perhaps.
Well, I'll talk to you about a false memory. That Horace Goes Skiing was a good game, because if we now put our focus on the Horace Goes Skiing, which,
explain to the lovely ladies and gentlemen exactly how the game works, right from where you turn it on.
Right, so the first thing, once the game loads, and of course, being a Spectrum game, originally you would have had to have gone through a few minutes of loading. You would have heard the lovely squeaks and scrawls of the tape of the game loading. But then, Philip, when we were speaking off mic, he referred to it as music, but on the title screen, the Horace theme tune, it's torture. It's just torture. It's just I can't replicate it. It is a horrible.
You can. Thing. You were off camera. You were doing a very good impression, which I think the lady.
It is atrocious. It is torture.
That was better than the actual thing.
Yeah, and you have to. So as quick as possible, you tap as many keys as possible to get going. Of course, there's no intro. You don't know, but luckily you know exactly what you've got to do because you're at the top of the screen, and you intrinsically know straight away that you've got to get down. You've got to cross a road, which seems to be a motorway or a highway, to get to the ski shop. And it seems that Horace has been given by someone $40, which he needs to rent some skis to go skiing.
Because it's instead of having lives.
Yeah, exactly. So that's quite a nice little touch there. $40 instead of 4 hearts. Money. Yeah, for pocket money. Well, that makes it even worse. Now you've made me think that Horace Goes Skiing is a minor. So he's only a 12-year-old. Is he going? He's been given pocket money, and he's got to get across one of the busiest roads you have ever seen. I don't know how often they put motorways between the car park for a ski resort and the place where you need to hire skis, but where Horace Goes Skiing, that's exactly how it's set up. You run across the road to the ski shop, hire some skis, run back across this highway to then get to the ski slope. So that's the first part. It's a kind of Frogger game. Now comes the best part, which is the downhill skiing. So you have to left and right you go down the ski slope, and your goal is to earn points by going through the gates, the flags, avoiding trees, and that's about it really. I
was going to say you're stretching it out here, mate.
Yeah. So you lose Yeah. Yes.
You've basically described the whole game. That is it. That is Horace Goes Skiing. You cross a road, you go skiing, and then you cross a road, and then you go skiing, and then you cross a road, and then you go skiing, and then you scream and shout, and you die. That is Horace Goes Skiing.
Yeah, that's a better description. You're right.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Good night. So when you do go down,
there are some intricacies. I can't say the word in the downhill section of Horace Goes Skiing. There's these sort of little jump things, aren't there? The little jumps.
Yeah, little jumps made out of.
I know you lot can't see us, but we're both doing the same little symbol with our fingers because it's just like a sort of squashed L on the screen.
Like a little pyramid made out of like 16 black pixels. And
you leap high into the air when you go anywhere near them.
Yeah.
Because the crash detection is so appalling. And the trees look quite small and detailed, but actually they're just one big square block.
Yeah.
That's the hit detection. It's like a inch square block. You go anywhere near the flipping tree, you will die. And when you don't die, you just break your skis. If you're unlucky. If you're lucky, you get the legend comes up, oh, Horace hasn't broken his skis. You're right, you carry on. Oh, off I go then. And then you hit something else innocuous, like a bit of snow, and your skis break.
If they do
and then you're back to the road. You got to cross the road again.
Yeah, if they break, you're back to the road.
I don't know why is he going to this ski shop where the f***ing skis are that rubbish that you hit some snow or a flag and bloody skis break and you got to go and get more.
Well, look at it the other way. When you fully hit a tree, you're lucky. Oh, your skis are okay. Horace himself would be dead, you know.
Yeah, but he hasn't got any arms. We established this.
Oh, that's
He's all right. He's got no arms to break. He just goes flump.
Yeah,
that's it. He's fine.
That's right.
Just gets up. How does this guy get up?
Yeah, I think
to start skiing.
That's true. I think off air we learnt that he doesn't actually have arms, and the thing that I thought may have been an arm is just his quiff, just his hairstyle, which ties back, ties in with
flick.
They should have just done a Shaking Stevens spin-off with this as well. Since Shaky Stevens had his own game, right? Yeah.
Horace goes to the hairdressers. I think that would have been an excellent game. Horace plays the keyboard in a new wave band. Look, I haven't finished drilling this shop. Why is this flipping ski shop the other side of the road? Why isn't it? What our producer pointed out quite lightly. Why the hell have you got to cross the road? I think it's because the guy, Mr. Tang, I've forgotten his first name, who wrote this, he's from Australia. I don't think he's ever been skiing. I don't think he knows what skiing is. I think someone just said to him, we need a winter games-based game for your new fantastic mascot. We need to get him out of those mazes. We need to get him doing something middle class because that's the sort of people that are going to be buying Spectrum games because they're so expensive. So we need to be doing a winter sport, skiing. That's the one, Tang. I want you to make him skiing. And this bloke's going, I live in Australia. We've only got one mountain that you're not allowed to go anywhere near. There's no snow anywhere. I don't know what skiing is. So he's watched Ski Sunday and he's right, you go down a hill, and then he's watched some travel program where the bloke goes into the shop and buys some skis for $10 back in 1980. God knows how much that was. And that's what he's done. You cross the road, get your skis. Oh, there'll be no lives. You start with $40 and then you go up the mountain. What happens to the skis when you get to the finish line that you then have to go and get more skis? I understand if you break the skis when you hit the tree when you're skiing, but why is it you go through the finish line that your skis just disappear? Oh, you got to go and get more skis. The higher people come and get them. Oh, you've had a nice day on the slopes, have you, Mr. Horace? Can we have the skis now, please? Your higher time's over. You'll have to go and get more if you want to do more skiing. Why can't he just give the bloke the $10? If he's come out of the ski hut, gone across the road to find Horace, say your time's up, mate. Give me your skis back. Just give him another 10. No, I want to go up again. It's flawed. This is a flawed game.
So did we work out how old we were when this game came out? I think we were about 8 or something. So
we were the age when everything was beautiful and wonderful.
Well, and now you mention it, I mean, what were our thoughts of skiing? Because I don't think I knew anyone had ever been skiing.
Ski Sunday. That's all. It's the same as Mr. Tang. We just watched Ski Sunday. That's all we knew.
So for us, this was probably quite realistic. For what we didn't know. We just didn't know better.
It was like being there.
Yeah, we didn't know better. It's context. You've got to put yourself back there. If you've never seen skiing, then that's it. Normal.
Yeah, but what does that make Horace and the Spiders?
Well, just imagine how many people from our generation in the UK never went skiing because they thought they'd have to cross the motorway to get there.
Yeah, they'd be like, well, I'll have to go with my parents.
And a motorway full of motorbikes. Because that's the other thing that reminds me. So when you're trying to cross the road, you've got another horrible audio effect, which is the sound of the motorbikes. And then when you actually get to go skiing, I found the skiing part really relaxing because it was in silence, more or less, until you miss a flag and then there's another horrible beep, which is also headache-inducing.
If you hit the flag, doesn't it go or something?
No, a horrible beep every time you missed a flag. Didn't you ever miss a flag?
Oh, yeah. I think if you hit the flag, you either hit the flag or miss the flag. It just beeps at you for everything.
Yeah. So, I think I got 1,550, and that will be my high score. I don't think I'm going to go back for more.
This is the funny thing that we will take from this, and I guarantee there's something that none of us have done for a million years, and that is play a game and try and get a high score. Games just don't do that anymore. You might get achievements, you might get unlockables, you might get a new hat for your avatar, big deal, or things that are locked behind a paywall, or you just simply try and complete the game. But this, the only point to it, excuse the pun, is to get a high score, i.e. to get more points. And I did. The first thing I did, as soon as I got a high score, I beat you, 166 or whatever it was. I took a picture of it and sent it to these three. Ha ha, look at what I done. And of course that spurred them on. They were like, oh, right, we'll try and beat him. Well, I don't know whether they're going to admit now what they're going to... Here come the excuses, everybody. Well, Here come the excuses. Settle in for this one. It's going to be a good excuse.
So if you remember the Spectrum keyboard, which I'm sure everyone does, there are some arrow keys, I think, on the numbers 6, 7, 8, and 9. So logically, I thought those were going to be the keys.
No, they're for the joystick. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. So in the emulator I was playing in, I was using those keys, and those make it. You've got to really think when you're moving with those keys. Once I'd learned that I could have been using Q, Z, I, and P, I got my latest, up, down, left, and right, like a normal, I then got my high score, which was much closer to Phil's high score.
Got much closer, yeah,
50 points below if I did it. But again, it's like crossing that road. It is so difficult. Why did he do it? Why was the game made that Horace would always run? So, crossing the road, you start on the top of the screen, you go down, and most of the time I would just wait for a gap in the traffic and just run straight. Hardly ever run to the middle of the road, left and right, up and down. No, because Horace never stands still. I don't know why, but he just has to keep moving. Maybe that would have made it the Frogger-esque style level a bit more enjoyable. Maybe having some kind of build-up, like just some kind of
2 cars.
Let's just build the difficulty level. Start with 1 or 2 cars. Have a ski slope without any trees, or just something like that, just to build it up. But no, it automatically gets difficult. And now they didn't have the excuse of it being an arcade an arcade game. There was no one putting 10 pence in to play this game. It was straight to Spectrum. So I don't understand why he made it so difficult. And if he ever play tested this with some friends, didn't anyone ever give him any feedback? Hey, this is a little bit tricky. Just too difficult, just way too difficult. Could have been more fun. And I wonder if it ever ends. I presume it doesn't. I presume there's probably, if you get to go skiing 5 times, there probably comes to a point where the road is so full of motorbikes that you just can't cross it. So I guess that's about it. Is that all the feedback we've got for Horace Goes Skiing?
I'm amazed we've talked this long. I think 30 seconds of just saying it's terrible. Thanks for listening, everybody. Would have done. But then that's not much of a podcast, is it, folks? I hope at least a few of you out there did try it out. And to those of you who did and have found it as miserable experience as us, I do apologise, particularly if, like us, you were fond of it. And I am still fond of Horace. I still love him. I still think that he was the unofficial sort of mascot for the Specky, even though, of course, we shouldn't be saying this. Of course, it did come out on the C64, I believe, as well. So, you know, it wasn't just the Spectrum, but I think it's his sort of his home. I think was on the Spectrum. Yeah.
So good memories yet again ruined.
Sadly.
Yeah. So
well, next time it'll be better.
Should we choose a good game?
What are we looking at next time?
Should we choose a
nice, easy, simple, family-orientated game that your granny could play? What are we looking at? Hey?
I've been told it's Revenge of Shinobi.
Oh, thank God for that. That'll be a nice, easy one that we'll all be able to play straight away.
That was good.
It was brilliant. It's one of my absolute favourite games. I have it.
Well,
on physical. I'm so worried now. I'm so worried.
Wait for those memories to be shattered. Well, until next time.
Yeah, we're sorry, folks. We won't play Horace ever again. You can email us at hello@spectrumdays.com, and you can contact us on Twitter @SpectrumDaysPod. And you can also find us on YouTube just by looking up Spectrum Days.